It's pretty simple. The defensive rules are simply garbage, and the players today, their effort on defense, it's hit or miss night to night.
Nah, facts. Inconsistent. And Adam Silver got to change something, man. You got to make change. It's like, bro.
And truly great defensive eras, like the 90s and 2000s, unfortunately, it's not coming back. Now,
I don't want to give up hope, y'all. I don't want to give up hope yet. I feel like Adam Silver, you got to come to your senses one day. One day. Maybe it's 5 years down the line. Maybe it's 10 years. One day he got to come to his senses. Be like, all right, we got to get the defense back in the job, man. Hand checking back, all that. Like, I ain't gonna lie, I'll be fine. You'll see the title, man. Let's get to it.
When it comes to the modern NBA, there is no doubt the players are extremely skilled as well as talented. And I think some fans would argue the NBA right now has more talent than it's ever seen. And don't get me wrong, these players are definitely very skilled,
like
very dedicated.
Overall, generally,
and they're great players.
But in terms of like great players in the league, that's a totally different thing. You know what I'm saying? Like great players and talented players are two different things.
Looking at past eras, the quote-unquote old school eras, I think that era NBA basketball was still better than this current era in 2023.
Nah, facts though.
So, looking at reason number one of why old school basketball was better, it's just pretty simple. The defensive rules, the defensive play was much better. As in 2023, on any given night, you can see a guy score 50, 60, and definitely 40 points. That's really common today. When back in the late 90s, early 2000s, a guy scoring 50 points, even 40, that was a big deal and front page news. But due to a lot of the rule changes, the referee calling, now in 2023, offensive scoring is just so watered down. As looking at the entire NBA last season, there were 25 games where a player scored 50 plus points. That is the most in over 50 years since Wilt Chamberlain played in the early 1960s. And if you take Wilt Chamberlain out of the record books, say he doesn't exist, for the past 5 years in the NBA, we had the most 50-point games in a season. And for comparison, back in 2004, there were only 5 games where a player scored 50 points. In 1997, it was even lower, with 3 games where a player scored 50 plus. So I ask you guys, how in a 25-year time period do we go from 3 50-point games all the way now to 25? It's pretty simple. The defensive rules are simply garbage, and the players today, their effort on defense, it's hit or miss night to night.
Nah, facts. Inconsistent. And Adam Silver got to change something, man. You got to make change. It's like, bro, you need to be some more, like, I can't even get it out. I can't even get it out,
fans
like,
nowadays,
come on.
When a guy scores 50,
that's how true it is.
It's not nearly as special as it was just 10 years ago. And I think the overall high-scoring games, big-time scoring matchups, it dilutes the product and overall value of cracking 50 or 60 points. And for that comparison, why I chose 04-97, I think that time period, that 7-8 year gap, that was the best defensive era of all time. As during those years, teams rarely cracked 100 points. They were in the mid-90s, upper 90s at the most. But right in that sweet spot of 94, 95 points, not 120 like in today's NBA. And looking at the best players in that 8-year period, once again, 97 to 04. In that era, there were only 3 players who averaged 30 points in a single season. That being Iverson, McGrady, as well as Kobe. To show you how diluted scoring is nowadays, in 2023, we've had 6 players just last year who cracked 30. That being Giannis, Luka.
If he puts the stats for probably players that crack 20, it's probably gonna be even crazier.
SGA, Dame Lillard, as well as Tatum.
Or 15,
and by 6
something
players
like that.
averaging 30 points, that ties the record for most players ever in a single season. And looking at players who averaged 25 points, in each of the past 4 years, that record has been broken nearly every year. As in 2020, we had 14 players, 21, 17, 22, 14 again, and this year, a whopping 20 players averaging 25 points. My point being, while there are great players, talented offensive players, the scoring numbers obviously are definitely inflated and boosted like the 1960s. And looking at overall teams, the scoring nowadays is still ridiculous, even for team standards.
I would think people. Well, I would hope people are not making that statement that it's the stats that's the reason why these players are more skilled and things like that. That's not true at all. It's not the stats. You know what I'm saying? You gotta add the context. Obviously, this era has a higher pace. You know what I'm saying? No defense, things like that. But that does not change the fact of human evolution. You know what I'm saying? That's the way you should that's where you should argue this point. Like, players are gonna get better regardless. 30 years down the line. 30 years later, the players are gonna be crazy too. Like, in terms of talent and skill, they're gonna be crazy. But greatness is a whole different story. You gotta be great in your era. You gotta be dominant in your era to be great. You know what I'm saying?
As last year, 29 of 30 teams average at least 110 points per game, and 14 of 30 ranked 115 on average. For comparison, back in 97, the two best offensive teams averaged 103.1 points, that being the Bulls as well as the Jazz. And looking at 04, the Dallas Mavericks that year averaged 105.2 points per game. The best scoring offenses, the Jazz, Bulls, Mavericks, the Tim Duncan Spurs, Kobe Shaq Lakers, they would rank dead last in scoring in this era. And those players, those teams, they weren't bad offensive teams by any means. It's just their era was much more defensive and much more balanced in terms of rules as well as play style. And the sad reality we have to face, these gaudy stats, big time numbers, they're not slowing down anytime soon. And truly great defensive eras like the 90s and 2000s, unfortunately, it's not coming back. Now,
I don't want to give up hope, y'all. I don't want to give up hope yet. I feel like Adam Silver, you gotta come to your senses one day. One day. Maybe it's 5 years down the line, maybe it's 10 years. One day he gotta come to his senses and be like, alright, we gotta get the defense back in the job, man. Hand checking back, all that. Like, I ain't gonna lie, I'll be fire.
Old school basketball was better, is the players back then actually valued playing games, and some guys actually tried to play all 82 games.
Facts.
In this load management era, sitting out games, resting, it's gotten completely out of hand.
Yo,
and nowadays players from...
It's crazy, because I feel for the people, man, who go to these games and the star player that you really want to see play ain't even playing. Because I know if I went to LA Lakers game and Brown wasn't playing, I would be like, yo, gang, you serious right now? Like, nah, you can't. You can't beat that ass. Like, nah, you can't beat that ass. Like, I would be so mad. So, yeah, that's ridiculous. Y'all got to be out there to play, bro. Y'all getting paid a lot.
For the most part, don't take pride in playing all 82 games. They rest back-to-backs, and it's very commonplace to rest that third game in 4 nights. You can clown the 1990s, call them plumbers, but it is pretty embarrassing. Someone like John Stockton, a short little white dude wearing nursing shoes, he suited up virtually every game he could and never sat out. As his first 5 years in the NBA, he played all 82 games. And from 85-97, missed a grand total of 4 games.
Yo, boy, John Stockton was out there hooping. He said, nah, I'm hooping. I don't know about y'all, I'm hooping. Word, like, but also another thing, I think the NBA got to stop creating that environment, bro. Like, because that's another thing. They create that environment to allow the players to be comfortable to even do that. You know? Like, NBA teams and organizations got to let players know, like, I ain't gonna lie, there's no low management over here. You know what I'm saying? If I was a whatchamacallit, a coach or something like that, I'd be like, yo, no low management over here. You know what I'm saying? Y'all gotta play. You know what I'm saying? We got what?
Even more impressive than that,
I need to see my
from
team on
age
the court.
36 to 40,
Get that chemistry, get that continuity.
Didn't miss a
Like,
single
things like
game
that, bro.
at that advanced age. Miss me with the old guys need rest narrative. If John Stockton can do it, trust me, you can do it too.
Nah, facts.
And looking at players who play all 82 games, this year in the NBA, there were 10 guys who accomplished that. That is the second lowest all time, behind 2022, where only 5 guys did it. And a stat that really blow your mind, in 1990 and 2000, there was a whopping 58 players who played all 82 games. And for the 90s, playing all the games, that was commonplace for around 50 players every single season. And look, I do understand it, playing every game, it's a very, very tall task. But players nowadays,
I'm not even gonna ask you to play every game. If you can't at least get 75 in, like, come on, 75 games out of 82, that's calm. You could, what? Like, come on, bro, at least 75. Someone like me, though, I'm going all the way. I need 80, all 80. I'm going all 82 games, bro. I don't understand how that's like, bro, you're getting paid to do this. That's one thing too. Like, a lot of these guys probably don't even got a passion for the sport, bro, and that's another problem. Like, that's probably really a bigger problem than we notice. Why these guys aren't out there every night, bro? Because I would be what?
pulling the Ben Simmons,
I'm
the
glad.
Zion.
I swear to God, yeah, yo, bro, what? I would be hooping, like there's no ifs, ands, or buts.
Load management
You'd be
stuff.
like, what? What are we
It's
doing?
a
What are
bridge
we talking
too
about right
far
now?
from actually resting and
Shit's
needing
crazy.
rest. And it might sound harsh, but sitting out when healthy, it's very disgraceful to the game, as well as the fans. And the problem of load management is so pervasive, even current day NBA stars are making it clear. They try to play every game, try their best, and play all 82 if possible. And look, I'll give Tatum credit for saying this.
How many games he
20
played?
years
Yeah.
ago, you didn't have to say this publicly or tell
But
fans
how many
this.
games did he play though?
It was a mindset of the
He
players.
better have played
and something they knew
games though,
inherently
because actions speak
they
louder
had
than
to do,
words.
or at least try to do. Maybe Tatum saying this will flip that switch in players. I doubt it.
Now, but I think the way this is going, I feel like this is going to start to change the way players think. You know what I'm saying? They're getting bashed online. The NBA is getting bashed, saying that everybody's calling it trash. You know, I think players going to start to realize, like, nah, we got to be out there to play, y'all. You know what I'm saying? They're not going to respect us. We're not even coming out there to play. They paying their money to see us. We're not even out there. You know? I think it's going to start to change. Maybe 5 years down the line, we're going to start seeing, you know what I'm saying, maybe 30, 40 players playing or 82 games. You know what I'm saying? Might be wrong.
Because unfortunately today's players, they don't take pride in playing all 82 games and showing up every single night. Now, the last reason why old school basketball was flat out better, as well as more entertaining, is back then
for real.
you had actual rivalries as well as competitiveness. As now in the 2020s, nothing makes me throw up more than seeing two so-called rivals being buddy-buddy, laughing, hamming.
Yo, for real, bro. Especially when they're still in the game. Like, the game not even over. Like, come on, y'all. There's none of that. There's none of that. Like, what we doing here? There's none of that, bro. It's war right now.
It up in a pivotal playoff game or a primetime matchup. And look, some guys, yes, they are friends. You can be friends off the court. Everyone gets that.
Off the court.
But between those lines, it should be cutthroat and you be trying to beat that guy at all costs. And the so-called tough guy of this era, Draymond Green, he's basically a fanboy of the best player of this era. As when it comes to LeBron James, he's like a 12-year-old schoolgirl just drooling the sidelines.
Imagine that is so crazy, bro, because you're competing against him. Like, literally, like, I don't understand. That shit is crazy that Draymond be doing that shit, bro. You go on this podcast talking so highly about this. I ain't gonna lie. I would have to wait till my career over. You know what I'm saying? I ain't talking. What? my podcast be straight about the Warriors.
Hits him back in the 90s.
Word.
Playing with Michael Jordan, just
What is he
gushing about
talking
Clyde
about, bro?
Drexler. It wouldn't happen. Or Kobe in 04, just in awe of Kevin Garnett, and just, oh my gosh, Kevin Garnett,
like-
he's so great, he's the best. While playing alongside Shaq.
I think you gotta really give a different type of analogy, because I don't think Draymond is nowhere near these type of statures. But say like someone like, I don't know, y'all give me some analogies in the comments. Some people you could.
That's what Draymond does to LeBron James
Draymond too.
while playing with Steph. And when it comes to rivalries, what do you say is the biggest rivalry, most iconic rivalry in the NBA today? I'm not talking about teams that play once or twice a year, met once in the playoffs. I'm talking about actual rivalries and extended series.
The only
It's hard to
rivalries.
think of a really good one. The best we really have is Steph versus LeBron, but that's kind of two players. It's not
Facts,
Warriors
like-
versus Lakers, and it's not
Nah,
Warriors
yeah.
versus Cavs anymore.
That's what I'm saying. It's like
You
a
don't
little
have
weird.
Bulls versus Pistons, Lakers versus Celtics.
But even when it's Steph versus LeBron, Draymond should be all the way with Steph. All the way, like, all the way riding. You know what I'm saying? That's supposed to be a dog. You know what I'm saying? You want Come on, bro.
Knicks versus Heat, Philly versus Boston. You don't have those iconic matchups like in the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s. And I think for this era, what it's desperately missing is a rivalry like that to carry the league as well as its popularity.
Nah, for real, bro. Like, for real. Players gotta start, like, they gotta make it to where these players can't really move around so much. I ain't gonna lie. It was good for a little bit, like, but they can't just be moving around like this, bro, because sometimes I don't be knowing what teams these players be on sometimes. It's crazy. Like,
So that right there is the end of the video, and my old school...
that's the end of it, man. If y'all enjoyed it, know what to do. Click on the last reaction. Share the video. Let me know how y'all feel in the comments, too. I know y'all got a lot to say about this one. Turn on post notifications. Like the video, comment, and subscribe. I'm out of here.